Good evening and welcome to our next session of Behind Closed Doors. I'm your host, Liz Howard, and I'm here again with another great interview. Help me welcome Kristen Howard. Thank you, Kristen, so much for joining me this evening. We're going to talk to Kristen again. If you all remember, I interviewed Kristen, and Kristen is my oldest daughter. She's also the co-owner of Tribe AZ, which is a local nonprofit organization, and she's going to tell you a little bit about that later in our interview. We talked to Kristen prior when we had our coffee shop and conversations at Starbucks. So what we're going to do this evening behind closed doors is we're going to just go in a little deeper, and we're going to talk about some of the things that she's experienced and some of the lessons she's learned, and sort of where she is now, what kind of headspace she's in, and some words of wisdom that she may have to offer for some other women and young adults that may find themselves in the same situation. So again, help me welcome Kristen Howard. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Oh, don't forget to grab y'all something to drink, okay? I am drinking apple juice for those of you that have inquiring minds and really want to know. So this is apple juice in my glass. So
This is ginger ale.
Okay, so grab you something to drink and enjoy the interview. All right, Kristen. Okay, so growing up, you read many genres of books. However, there were different genres that you felt really compelled and drawn to. Tell us something about some of those genres that you read and about the life that those characters lived and how those seeds were planted and how you kind of determined, like, okay, this is a lifestyle that I want to live, okay? And nobody's going to stop me, and this is what I'm going to do, okay? So talk to us about that. Talk to our viewers about that.
So I always, growing up, we used to take trips back here in actually Arizona. We grew up taking trips to the Phoenix Library, I believe it was, where it had like all these different levels and all these different things to do. And so we had our library cards really, really young and were able to check out books. But as I got older, I wasn't, and because of the life that my mother and my father lived growing up in church and being sheltered, so to speak, I wasn't allowed or permitted to read the Eric Jerome Dickies and the Zane, the Noor, who else? Nikki Turner. All of those books were not allowed in our house, and we couldn't even watch certain TV shows. So that when you're told not to do something, you're either going to, not do it or not do it right now. So that was the case. I had my own library card, so when I could check out books or when my friends would check out books, I would ask for the books that they were reading. And so in those books, as some of you may know, like the Nikki Turner and the Zanes, they were more explicit and really detailed in intimate encounters with sex and drugs and money, the lifestyle, just everything. And to me, it was the life that I didn't have. Right. First of all, right. And second, it was the life that was preached to be such a bad life.
Yeah, it was forbidden.
You don't do that. You don't
right.
go there. When you feel that, you pray. You until it goes away. You know what I mean? Take a shower, whatever. Yeah, whatever the case may be. So, but it wasn't a conversation. It was just like, this is it. This is all. You don't do this. You don't do that. So, I think as you would say, I was a rebellious child. I really was rebellious. So, and I love that about myself. Even now, it's just, kind of a plus and minus sometimes. But I wanted to read those books because I think that I felt that you can't just tell someone not to do something.
That's a good point.
and not give them a reason or an explanation, because in their head it's like they telling me not to do this because of why. You know what I mean? And I want to know why. So those books were, of course, interesting and captivating, and it was the ups and the downs of the relationships and the drug abuse that was like, it was just you can, it's easy to put yourself in that character's shoes when it's not a life that you've ever been exposed to. So the hardships and everything, that wasn't something that I was exposed to. So those books were entertaining for me. They were really entertaining, and they allowed my imagination to kind of take its own, kind of take me away.
Yeah. So in reading those, and we know the importance of words and how they plant seeds.
Yeah.
So did you imagine yourself living this kind of life? How did it go from like reading this to, okay, I wanna, and I know about, the church and, how you're forbidden to do various different things. So it's like, okay, when I get 18, peace out, I'm done. I'm not going to church. I'm not gonna do whatever. I'm gonna experience some of these things. Yeah. So you could have went tons of different ways.
Yeah.
So something in these books, I guess, really, what character, I guess, were you creating for yourself, or were you just gonna, I'm gonna be Kristen, and I'm gonna live this life, and I'm gonna have money, and I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna work for paycheck to paycheck and make ends meet, and I'm not gonna do this. So how did you get there?
So I read the books, and I would say it wasn't until I was older where I could understand and start to develop those intimate relationships on my own. So I would say around like 16, okay, I noticed that, in going to church and everything that, happened to us, and being kicked out and put out, and cars repossessed. It's like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to live like this. Like, right. This is, you know what I mean? How do you worship a God and be so committed to a God that allows you to suffer like this, when I could just go out and live this life and have everything I want? Like, why would I, it was the comparison of what my life was versus what my life could be. Mm-hmm. And so if they did it in a book, then I felt like this happened to somebody, or somebody experienced this, so this somebody real life. Mm-hmm. So why can't it be my real life? You know what I mean? Why can't this be my reality? Why can't I drive these cars or wear these clothes? So when I started working and, really getting out and having those personal relationships with different men and even women, it's like, this is what I want to do. I don't want to live, I don't want to go to, like you said, I don't want to go to church anymore, because if there's going to be suffering on both ends, then I might as well enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, if this is the life, if these are my choices, then I'd rather do it comfortably. Okay. So it was really like, okay, all you asked for was, I just want you to graduate and get a diploma. So once I got that at like 17, it was summer, so 17 and a half actually, and it was a blow up between us, and I was like, I'm good, like, I'm done, I just want to live my life. Like, so at 18 I moved out, and those characters came back to, it wasn't one specific character. It was just, okay, this is what I read, this is what this person looks like, this is what he drives, this is how he dresses, this is how he looks. And so of course, in between and in the meantime, I would walk to the store and get the honks of the horn, and you get stopped by certain people, and so I'm like, okay, what does he drive, what does he wear, how does he look, okay, he looks like. And so those characters come back to mind as I started to be out and be social in the world, and realize that we are all characters in somebody's book.
That's a good line right there. I like that.
So
okay,
this is my character. This is who I'm gonna be. This is what I want. I want a car. I want my nails done. I want my hair done. And this is the type of person that's going to give it to me, because this is the type of person that gave it to this person in this book. And so I just really took on really a lot of different characters. As I see in my relationships, the things that you put up with and the things that you tolerate versus the things that make you resilient. You know what I mean? So I just I just took the characters out the book and realized that these are real life characters in real life.
So now explain to so the characters in the books and what is what is the game? What does that mean? And so when you these characters, are they characters inside this game? This game, the game is a lifestyle.
The game is a lifestyle, and I think when you say the game, it speaks to many different lifestyles. So a book that a lot of people may be familiar with is The Coldest Winter Ever by Sister Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this character, this girl who grows up really tough, you know, I believe she's in a single parent home, and then she meets this guy. She's walking with her friends or whatever, and she meets this guy, and he has on the jeans and the jewelry and the you just know what they look like. You can tell when sometimes you can look at somebody and tell, even though it may be judgment, you can tell if they're in the game by what they drive, by what they wear, what he looks like. Is he smoking weed? Mm-hmm. You know, you just kind of know. And so the game would be the drug game. Mm-hmm. It can be the prostitution game. It can be pimping and hoeing. It can be. It's a game. You know, it's kind of like chess. You have to be 5 steps ahead, or you'll kind of risk losing. So when you say the game, it's a mind game. It plays on your emotions. It plays on a lot of different your finances in every way. It plays a game on you, and sometimes when you think you're winning, you're actually losing.
So did you really understand when you entered this lifestyle that it was a game? Did you understand that, and were you willing to, hey, I'm gonna shoot my shot, okay? I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna do this. Or was it like, oh wow, I didn't really think that it was. And I guess what I'm asking is the books that you read, were the games in the book, or were those lifestyles like similar to the one that you lived? Or were you just like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was, I really thought they made up some of this stuff, but this issue's real. Okay, this got real, right?
It was similar, and the good part about the way that I grew up, we were always poured into. So it's like, you're beautiful, even though I was a chunky kid growing up, and so nobody at that stage in their life thinks they're ever going to grow out of being one of my nicknames, like Tuta and Tony, because of the way my body shape was. I can't help the way that
shaped like a mom.
Yeah, so I mean, whereas people pay for it, some of us are just blessed, naturally. So it was that case, and so when I spread out, it was like, all right, I felt beautiful. I felt like I could do this. I could change my hairstyle to any style I want to. I could wear any color. I could do whatever. So being poured into and knowing that you're beautiful and you have the looks, all you need is this certain mentality. All you need is this certain attitude, and they would call it like the bad bitch. You know what I mean? Like, I'm only talking to a certain type of man. You gotta have this type of money. You gotta be this tall to ride this ride, and that's just like that's what it is. So I was always poured into. So when I went into it, it's when you know that you're beautiful. And women are, now that I'm older, I realize that women are naturally more appealing to the eyes than men. So you learn to just, it's a powerful thing. You learn to kind of harness your power and your energy and give it out as needed. So if I need something, then I know that this person will give it to me if I stroke his ego and make him feel a certain type of way, or if I cook and he come over and like, this is what he wants, so if I give him what he wants, then I'll get what I need.
So it is a transaction. It becomes a transaction,
a give and take. Yes.
Interesting. Okay. So when you entered this lifestyle, when did you realize that um I think I'm in danger. I think that um or maybe what was there a time when you just was like, okay, I think I can do this on my own and I don't need, you know, I
Okay.
don't need the person.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need my business partner. I can do this on my own.
He was not a business partner. He was my pimp. He was my boyfriend, and then he was my pimp. So he's not a business partner. We're
wow.
talking, so we're
Okay.
gonna talk.
Okay, that's
Like,
I don't know what to call it
so,
because
and it sounds bad. It does sound bad, but these are actual things that happen in real life. These are actual parts that people play in your life story, in your book, in the book of your life. So you have to call it that. He was not my business partner. He was my pimp.
So now, but he didn't enter your life as a pimp.
No, he didn't. And so
I'm just wondering if it was like, if you felt like, okay, this was okay. I know what I'm getting into. So I know who I know who you are. I read about this life and I've experienced some things. Or was it like, okay, I know what I'm in. I know what I'm getting into, and I know who you are, and I feel like I can win this game. I mean, I'm just wondering if you went into it maybe more naive, or did you feel like you had, more leverage in the game based on what you had studied? I've done my research, so I pretty much know who you are by what you drive, how you look, you know.
First of all, I was already in the game without being in it, because at that when I had met Lamar, which was my boyfriend at the time. Before that, I was already a stripper. I had started stripping when I was 18. So when you're in the strip club, you have people that come see you. They come to experience you, and then what you do outside the club is your business. Of course, you're not supposed to take business outside of the club because, for one, it's dangerous. Number two, it messes with your business, and it's just not a good look. So I was already in it. You know what I mean? Being a stripper, I just did it in a business and in an entertainment fashion. You know what I mean? Where you have all these different women you could choose from. This is who you choose, and then I would meet people like that. So I was already pimping myself. Really, to be completely honest, I was already doing it by myself, and that's what they would call a renegade hoe, because you're out here on your own. Whereas when Lamar came into my life, it was actually a relationship that I wanted to have, because I felt like all of my relationships prior to him, I just got up and left. I just got tired. And I'm still young at that time too. So I'm like 20, 21 years old. So I'd had maybe like 3 or 4 other relationships with men that I just feel like I just got up and left. Versus if I would just stay a little longer and put up a little longer. And I think that I'm pretty sure now that has a lot to do with my upbringing and what I've seen growing up. I've seen that, you suffered and went through and put up and just kind of thugged it out with dad, and like where he goes I go, and that's like, and I was like, dude, I want that, like I want somebody to be there for me and just like never give up on me and love me. And so that's what I wanted from that relationship with Lamar. I was never expecting it to become a pimp and a hoe situation because we were together. So, but when I moved to San Diego to actually be there with him, and I was away from my family who had my best interests at heart, and away from my friends who kind of knew, it was isolation. So I didn't have that sound advice, or just to have a person to have a conversation with about, maybe this is not the right person, or I was away. So our relationship started off as a regular relationship. Like the first year was, he was coming to visit me from San Diego, and I was living in Las Vegas. I didn't I no longer wanted to live in Las Vegas though. So it was easier for him to get me to come to San Diego because I didn't want to be there anymore. And of course, I had moved back home for like the second time. So this is a person offering me a way out, you know, a way out of are you serious? Like California, if I can do it in Vegas, I can do anything I want to in California for sure. Because I have the looks, I have the things move a lot faster in places like Las Vegas. So I have that mindset that may be a little bit faster. I may have to pick up on stuff and just kind of move with it, but I can do it. So our relationship started off as a regular relationship, and then I would say about a year and a half. The second year in, it became really abusive, and it was just more intellectually and emotionally, verbally, like you're nothing without me. If you leave me, you're just gonna go back home to your parents, and you're not, you know. And so when someone is constantly speaking those things, you know, into you and over you, it's like, do I really want to go home to another failed relationship? I don't want to start over. At that time, I think that I had a conversation with my dad, and he knew, and I think that you knew as well. This is not the person, you know. Parents, they know. So they know. If they say they know, they know. Like, and so they knew, you guys knew that this is not my person, but I didn't want the I told you so. You know, like this is, I told you this wasn't gonna work. I knew this wasn't your person, and I didn't want another failed relationship. I didn't want to fail at all. Right. So I stayed, and that was, that's how it started. And it started off that way, and before it became physically abusive, I would say around that same time, probably a year and a half in, he hit me for the very first time. And even in that situation, it was an argument that we had got into. And when a person when their intentions are bad, they're just bad. And so a narcissist they will gaslight you and make you feel like, well, if you hadn't done this, I wouldn't have done that. If you wouldn't have, if you wouldn't have said this or said that, I wouldn't have hit you. And then it's like, I'm sorry, like it'll never happen again, and I love you and I care for you. And it's like, in my head, I'm like, okay, there are plenty of women that have been hit, and they, maybe it won't happen again. Okay, how do I know it won't happen again? If I don't stay, I won't know that it won't happen again. So it's, again, okay, I'm
gonna tough it out, and I'm gonna make this work.
And it happens, and then I think that, again, social media and it goes back to what you see and what you're giving your energy and your time to. So at the same time, I'm seeing in social media that Beyonce is going through this huge thing with Jay-Z, and they're supposedly separating, and he cheated, and people are upset with her because she's staying. And I'm like, well, if it happened to Beyonce and she stayed, if it happened to Whitney Houston and she stayed.
Wow. It's what we do.
It's women, what we do.
We stay. So, obviously, that wasn't the last time. So, at what point did you feel like, okay, I'm in danger, and I'm in over my head, and I need to get out of here?
It was a couple things that were going on. I think it was like 20, I'm pretty sure I was 22. And I had been traveling a lot. So at that time, we were living in Texas, but I was going. At that point, I had really had it in my head that I don't really like this person. Like, I don't want to be around them. I don't like the time that I spend with them, but this is our business relationship. This is what gives me the brunches. I get to be honest, I got to experience a life that I wouldn't have if I would have lived a regular job. Right. And so that also had me stay too. So I was doing brunch with the white people, and they looking at me like, what are you doing here drinking champagne in the middle of the daytime? So I was able to do things and go places where it's like, yeah, I'm here. You know, and
I'm on the yacht.
yeah,
I'm wearing
I'm
the
living,
Gucci.
yeah,
I'm wearing
the Prada and yeah, the
and
Balenciaga
I'm
and all that,
shopping on
just like
Rodeo
you.
Drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at that time, I was traveling a lot, so it wasn't really a him and I thing. It wasn't us. When we were together, we were together. When we weren't, we weren't. I was doing my business and handling my business or whatever. So I had started to lose an extreme amount of weight because I was, of course, on drugs. And my choice of drug was, at the time, it was ecstasy pills and Molly, Patron, weed, like that. I would drink to start my day. I would drink and smoke to start my day, and it just happened all throughout the day. And so, um, it was a few things though. I had, for one, I had, the thing that really made me stop and like really pray for guidance is I actually caught him cheating with a girl that was our waitress at the restaurant we would go to in Texas. There's a restaurant called Cheddar's, and she was our waitress every time. Like we were requested her. She was a black girl. She was super cool. I was like, yeah, she's super cool people. So we hung out a couple times, went to clubs. She was a cool person, and so I went, and he was supposed to come back to our house, but he was at the hotel room where he would do his business and I would do my business. So I'm like, what is going on? So I went to the hotel room to find him, and my key wouldn't work because the top lock was on. I'm like, what's the top lock on the door? Like, this is, and so whatever. I had the maid, had the maid knock on the door, tell her, like, oh, it's housekeeping, whatever. So he opens the door, and she's in the bed with him. And I'm like, really? The help though? Like, this is somebody, like, you could have done this with anybody, but you choose to, like, a person that knows, and this is the help. This is a waitress. Like, at the time,
Wow.
I used to, and so it was a rush of emotions, and we ended up fighting. I ended up grabbing the girl out the bed, and she ran from me, and which made me really upset. And I don't know, I just blacked out. And when I came back to, she was in a bathtub she was just bloody everywhere, and like on the phone calling the police. And so he was like, you gotta go, and all this. And so I left, and that was the first time that I actually caught him. It was more times after that. But I had gotten sick, and I was like, I don't know what's wrong. I can't do this tonight. I can't make no, like, I really need some time. So of course he was upset because you can't, we gotta make money. Like, so I went to the emergency room, and I had a kidney infection due to dehydration and malnutrition. So my body had started getting sick, and so I went to the emergency room, got my antibiotics, my painkillers, because this kidney infections are extremely painful. Like, so I went to the emergency room, and when I got back to him, he was still upset. He was still cussing, and you're no good, and I'm gonna go get me another bitch, and all this other stuff. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm just tired. Do what you gotta do. And so he took all of my pain medicine, all of my antibiotics, and poured them down the toilet. And of course, after that, there was a physical altercation and an argument, a domestic dispute, as they would call it. And I was just like, are you serious? Like, this is my medicine. Like, this is what's going to help me get better so that we can get back to doing what we normally do. But you don't even care about whether I'm sick, whether I'm dying, or anything. Like, that's my well-being, because if I'm not alive, then nothing happens. So after that, it was like, God, if this is really, really what you want from me, if this is the life you have for me, if this is my person, I'll stay. But if it's not, I really, really need you to show me and really get me out of this situation, because I don't feel good. I'm sick.
Yeah.
And I still love this person.
Wow.
And I still want to be there, and I still want to help them. But I'm sick, and I'm physically sick and mentally sick. So at that point, a number of things just start happened, and of course I caught him cheating again. And then there were other girls that were recruited, and long story short, I found out that as they were traveling with me, the goal in the game is for the main bitch, which was me, to be not working so much. So I was training on the go other girls to do, or other women to do what I do, so I don't have to work as much. I'm just kind of coaching and on the sidelines and whatever. So I found out that one of those girls had just turned 18 and the other one was not 18. She was 17. Wow. So as I traveled from Texas to California driving, it's like,
how many miles is that? How
thousands of miles. I don't even know, but it's thousands of miles. So, but we're hitting places in between. Okay. So we stop at different hotels and then post an ad. At that time, it was Craigslist and Backpage. So we're hitting different places and spaces to see if it's beneficial for us to stay or to just go ahead and keep going. But when I learned that this person was 17, I can be charged with trafficking a minor. Wow. Over every state line that you cross, you can be charged with a felony charge of trafficking a minor. And so I was like, you don't care. Wow. Like, you really don't care. And you knew, like, he knew that this girl was 17 years old. She wasn't of age. So to do like all of that and just treat a person like you don't care, and at that point it was like, okay, we had a lot of money, we had the cars, he had his car, I had my car, we had a family vehicle, a Range Rover, I had my 745, he had his S550. It was like, this is the life that I asked for. We had our house, we had our trap spot. It was the life in the books. I had the jewelry. I was super skinny. I could wear what I wanted to wear. I thought I was in my Beyonce stage, but it was looking more like Whitney Houston, real sick. Wow. So, but after those things happened, it was like, okay, all right.
But you ever stop to look at yourself in the mirror and did you like what the woman that you saw, or did you just kind of glance and just okay?
I think I always liked who I was because
okay.
Like, let's just At any stage, in any phase, I know I was killing somebody. To be completely honest, like, it's somebody out here that is way worse than me, but way less. So I'm gonna make it look real good. So I never thought. And then you don't have the time.
Right.
I don't have the time. Like, I really don't. Yeah. All I do have time is to make sure my nails are done, my hair is done, and that I present myself a certain way, even if it's not what it looks like. As long as that's what they see, that's all they need to know.
Wow.
So I didn't have time until it actually, I'm physically sick. You take my medicine, okay, whatever. I go get new medicine, and then we're physically fighting. Where I don't like you. I really didn't like him. I got more attention from my tricks, and people that spent money with me would be like, why are you doing this? You're a beautiful person. Like, just talking to you, and a lot of people have the misconception too that sometimes because you're a prostitute or you're in the game that you're constantly having sex. All men and all people that you encounter don't want sex. A lot of my clients really wanted companionship. So they were older men. They were well-established lawyers, judges. I've had police officers, district attorneys. Like, they just really wanted companionship because their jobs or careers didn't allow them to have those types of relationships. So if I have to pay for it, I have the money to pay for it. And so it would be like, we would be at dinner or just a regular conversation, like, why are you doing this? Like, you're really intelligent and you're really beautiful, and why are you letting him, because I know there's a him, and I'm like, this is not what you pay for. So it was kind of like those conversations that you would, you're overstepping your boundaries. So
yeah,
if we're gonna continue, right, this is business. This is not. And so I think I've crossed that line twice though, and actually liked two of my clients because they genuinely cared for my well-being. Like, you can leave, and it would be safe for you to come here, and you would be okay here, and but it's like, who wants to start a relationship with a client? And how do you continue a relationship of substance with somebody that paid for your time?
That's a good question.
Or will you always think of me as your prostitute?
Right.
So those things were like, okay, this doesn't feel good. Like, it's time for me to go. And so it was on a night, and he was just like, Lamar was just in his mood, like, because we had everything. It was like, oh, okay, you could leave if you want to, and whatever. I did this on my own, and you wasn't. I'm like, really? Like, I remember it was just me, you, and a laptop. You didn't you weren't selling the drugs the way that at that time he was, selling drugs, and he wasn't even having to be there. He was like the person, like, to know. So he had little minions and people that would move around for him. So he really, he did all this on his own. And I'm like, really?
Yeah,
okay.
I don't need you now.
All right, that's cool. So, but there were also things that like, people would come into. I always told him, like, you don't shit where you lay your head at.
Right.
And so when I noticed that more people, when I would come home from off the road, there were all these people in my house. And I'm like, this is what that spot is for. This is what the hotel, the trap spot is for. These people are not supposed to be in our home, where at the time we didn't have a child, we had his children. So this is where we bring our children. This is our family home. Like, you can do that out there, but I would notice that people, all these different people, I'm like, this is not going to end well. Like, it's not, because if these people were not with you then, they're not going to stay with you now. Like, this is just not, it doesn't work like that. And not only did I read it in a book, but I had seen it in real life, because I was by myself. And you were by yourself before we found each other. So how, and so I was like, I told him, you're going to choose them and this life, or you're gonna choose us. And he chose that life, and so I said, okay.
And so you left. Were you afraid when you left? Were you relieved when you left? Did you want to turn around and go back?
I think I was afraid, because at the time, I had my youngest brother in Texas with me, Christopher. So he had come, and he was being taught the drug game and everything. So he was able to actually witness how I was being treated and talked to. But as siblings, I think we always had our boundaries. Like, we respect. I wouldn't even say we respect. We accept one another's choices, even though we may not understand it or respect it. We still have to accept it, because that's their choice.
Right.
So I was scared because I had my brother with me, and then two, where am I gonna go? Like, how do I explain this? And there was always a threat. If you leave, then I know where you live. I know where your parents live. I know where your family. Like, you'll never be able to. And it's those type of things that it's like, man, do I really want? They don't have anything to do with it. They're casualties in my decision making, but they're indirectly but directly affected because of me.
Yeah. So
I didn't want to leave because of that, but I was also scared because by then there were the two girls. And so I would have to leave the two girls, and I told them, I was like, listen, I'm leaving. Like, when I get back, this is on our way back from California. We had a storage unit that had some things in it, some money, some drugs that we had put away. So I cleared out the storage unit because it was in my name. That was the only thing I put in my name. And so I cleared out the storage unit, packed it up in a car, and drove from LA to back to Texas, back to Odessa, Texas. And so when I came in the house, the girls didn't make the amount of money that they wanted to make because of course they're young. They think it's, like I just lived this life without the work. I'm like, no, it took a lot of work for me to be able to shop and go and do as I please. Like, but they were young, so they didn't make the amount of money they were supposed to. I exceeded the expectation, as my dad would say. But because they didn't make the money that they made, that's my fault.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm the teacher. Yeah,
Okay.
so it was an argument, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. So he was, while he was on his rant or whatever, it was like, okay, all right. I was in the room. I packed up my stuff, and because the girls had seen me, they were in the room like down the hall across from me. And they're like, where are you going? And we don't want to be here without you. And so it was a petty moment, but I had a point to prove.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, if y'all want to go with me, I'll take you home, or you can go to Las Vegas with me. That's the only two options you got. I'll take you back to wherever he got y'all from.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to Las Vegas. And at that time, I'm like, listen, if I could do it with you, I can do it without you. If I did it in all these different states, you can't take the knowledge from me. Once you teach me how to do something, I know it.
Right.
Once you teach me how to fish, I can feed myself forever.
Right.
So it was kind of that, and I did it, and I wanted to prove a point to him, like, as much as you think people are loyal to you and to what you can give them, all they need is somebody to show them a little bit more than what you have, and most people will leave. And so I took the girls with me.
Wow.
And I proved my point.
Now that actually could have been very dangerous for you.
It could have been dangerous for me. It really could have been dangerous, and
maybe even for the three of y'all.
It still was once we got to Las Vegas, because they didn't want to go home because they had been kicked out or whatever, because they they like to smoke weed, they like to live the same life that I live, and they still young. So I got back and I stayed with them for a little while, but they were still in contact with Lamar. By that time, I had stopped answering my phone. So I was like, once they got here and once they got to Las Vegas and seen that this is Las Vegas, this is not Texas where it's easy. Like, you have to be on your P's and Q's if you're going to live this type of life in Vegas, because there are entrapment laws. People actually go to jail for prostitution, and Vegas is coming from Odessa and Midland, Texas, to a big city like Las Vegas. You're lost. You know what I mean? Like, this is a playground to you, but it's really not.
Right.
So they were still in contact with him, but I ended up leaving though. I ended up leaving them at the hotel room and going home.
Wow.
And so he came and got them.
Okay.
Because they were scared, but ultimately, like, he was hoping to come and get
the three.
All of us.
Yeah. Now, as I said before, we started talking, I've read that it takes about 7 times, approximately, I guess, for a person to, or a woman, male, female, or whoever the person is, to leave 7 times before they actually make up their minds to actually leave. What do you have to say to somebody who says, I think I'm ready, I'm not ready? What do you say? I mean, we read the stories almost every day. They're in the news. More and more I see domestic violence. Okay, so now 7 times before they leave.
Yes. What would I say? I would say, honestly, I don't know what I would say. If you're trying to leave, then it's just so different now. I think that, honestly, I haven't thought about what I would say. It's just so different now. Like, I would say if you want to leave, leave. When you feel that feeling that you feel something inside of you that is like, I'm not gonna live. Like, I'm not gonna make it. That if when you feel that feeling, or when you start to really feel the urge to leave, leave, because it's not going to get better. Like, when you feel it, you really feel it, and you start to feel it mentally and physically, and everything is showing you the signs. Pay attention to the signs and go. You know what I mean? And if you have a safe person, I've always kept what my mom always called, like, no matter what, she had to be spoken to, she had to be seen. So that person, and then I had Jante, who would call, like, no matter what, I don't care what you're doing, answer the phone, let me know you okay, and if you need to come back, come back. You know what I mean? If you're too embarrassed to go home, then you come here. But you need to have if you have time to develop a safety plan surrounding your exit strategy, I would definitely say do that. Always have a person or people that you can call and say, hey, I need this amount of money and I need to go, and I need to go quietly, like now. So when you feel it in every aspect, which is hard, you're going to feel it because it's only so much numbing that you can do. So when you're not numb, all of that comes rushing back in. That's why drugs and alcohol is really important to be in. For me, it was important to be in the game because I have those feelings and I know what's right and I know what's wrong. You know what I mean? And so it's like, nah, I'm just stay for a little bit longer, for a little bit more money. When you have to negotiate with what you know is right, it's over. It's done with. It's really done. And when you start battling that thing, like really fighting yourself, it's time to go, because your self knows, your spirit knows, your soul knows what it knows. And so when you're having to fight with that, that's you fighting your intuition. That's you fighting what comes naturally to you. So if you're having to fight your natural intuition, your natural emotions, it's time to go. And if you have time to develop an exit strategy, or you have a shelter or a place or a person to help you get out, then get out. And it's hard. Yeah. It is hard.
Do you miss it? You ever miss it?
Some days, on some paychecks. In some moments, there are things that of course I want to do, and places that I want to take my son, and some paychecks. Yeah, I look at my paycheck and I'm like, dude, this is just a deposit for my time, but you either gonna pay with your time or your life.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of women do. So now, Tribe AZ is your nonprofit, your 501c. So tell us a little bit about that and how people can donate and become a part and reach out and share their stories and contact you.
So Tribe AZ came.
And Jessica, of course.
Yeah, Jessica. That's my friend, my business partner, my sister. Tribe AZ came about when I moved here to Arizona. I didn't really know what it was, but I knew that as I started to see things in the news, one of the stories in the news that really stuck with me for a long time was Kanika Jenkins, the girl that they found in the freezer. But she was amongst friends, she was partying, but she was found alone, almost naked in the freezer. And that hit hard for me because it made me realize, like, everybody does not get a do-over. And to come out of the game with no STD, no AIDS, no hepatitis, no tuberculosis, I don't have a criminal record, I don't have anything. Like, no, that's rare. That's really, really rare. So I feel like it's my responsibility as not just a survivor, but as a good human to offer that opportunity to someone else. And everyone is not even privileged or even graced, to have a home to come back to. I had a home and I had parents who didn't understand, but they didn't ask any questions. Like, your key works. So home was a really good place to start my healing journey because I knew I was safe there. So I wanted to give that back to other survivors, and so Tribe AZ the idea started off as a group home. But as you start to get into the business and you realize there's so much red tape and that people are aware that this happens on many different levels, in foster care, in shelters, but it's in the world, but it's also one of the highest paying careers. Prostitution, it's sex, so there's a market for it. So do we really want to prevent it? Do we really want to help these survivors become better people in their community so that they can help other survivors? Because then what happens to our money? Okay. So it's a lot of red tape around things like that, and so it started off as a group home, but because Jessica, we have our lives, we have our children, we are revamping it to be possibly a drop-in center for youth, because there's a need for youth. A lot of youth out here are being trafficked and pushed into trafficking because of homelessness, because of drugs, because of the economy. So we want to make it a drop-in center, but eventually the goal for Tribe AZ is to become a tiny home community for survivors to have the opportunity that I had to get counseling resources, to get financial aid to go to school, to get trades, to learn how to do different classes. A lot of people don't know how to cook. They don't know what a balanced meal is. Like, just basic things to be a human and to be a pillar in their community. So that is Tribe AZ, and you can get in contact with us through the website www.tribeaz.org or by Facebook, Tribe AZ. You can also get in contact with me through my Instagram at Kristen Nicole Howard. Kristen Nicole Howard on Facebook. I think that's all of my platforms. Other than that, yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for joining us.